So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we're going over the GCSE Maths past paper of November 2024 on the foundation tier, paper 2, which is a calculator paper. Now before we get started working through this paper, a little reminder that I'll include a question breakdown in the description below so you can see which topic each question relates to, and I'll also include a link to the 162 Maths contents page which gives you easy access to all the video lessons going through all the topics in greater detail, topic tests, audits and other exam paper walkthroughs. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 says a linear sequence starts 4, 7, 10, 13, write down the next number in the sequence. So for this, all you want to do is be able to see how do you get from one term to the next. We've got an increasing linear sequence, so we're working out the difference between each term, which you can see is plus 3. So to find our next term, we just need to add 3 plus 13, which gives us an answer of 16. Moving on to B, it says a different linear sequence starts 19, 14, 9, 4. Write down the next number in the sequence. So here we can see we've got a decreasing sequence in which the numbers from term to term are going down by 5. So we just need to do 4 take away 5, which is negative 1. Then for C, it says here is another sequence and it's asking us to write down the term to term rule. So for this, hopefully you can spot that to get from one term to the next, we need to multiply by 2. So in the answer box, I just need to write times 2 or multiply by 2. Moving on to question 2, it says here is a price list and we've got soap is £2, candle is £4.55, lip scrub is £1.75 and body cream is £3.80. And the question is asking us to work out the cost of 3 candles. So for this we just need to multiply 3 by 4.55, and remembering it's a calculator paper, so we type that into our calculator, in which I get an answer of £13.65. Moving on to question 2b, which says that Sal has £7.50, wants to buy 1 soap and 1 body cream. Does he have enough money to buy 1 lip scrub? We need to tick an option. So for this, let's first of all work out how much it costs for 1 soap and 1 body cream. So going back to the price list, 1 soap is £2 and body cream is £3.80, giving us a total of £5.80. So what we then need to do is do £7.50 minus £5.80, which if I type that into my calculator gives me an answer of £1.70. And as a lip scrub costs £1.75, Sal does not have enough, as £1.70 is less than £1.75. So the option we need to tick is no. Moving on to question 3a, it says solve 5x equals 30. So we trying to get x by itself, so what's the 5 doing? It's multiplying, so the opposite would be to divide by 5, and 5 goes into 30 6 times. Then for 3b, it says solve minus 2 plus y equals 10. So for this we take the 2 over by adding 2, in which then I've got y equals 12. Then for 3c, it says simplify fully. So for this we divide the numbers, so 20 divided by 4 is 5 and w divided by w is 1, so the answer is just 5. Moving on to question 4, it says points A, B and C are plotted on the grid, and it says write down the coordinates for C. So again, when we're looking at coordinates, we go along the corridor, so that's 2 first and then it's minus 2 down. Then for question B, it says write down the coordinates of the midpoint of AC. So the midpoint of AC is here, in which that coordinate is 2, 1. And then it says plot point D on the grid so that ABCD is a rhombus. So if 2, 1 is the midpoint of AC, then all we need to do is just count from B from that midpoint, so that's 4 away, so it's going to be another 4 away, so point D is going to be at 6, 1. Moving on to question 5, it says here are 5 numbers and it says work out the range. Well, to work out the range, it's the biggest number, take away the smallest, so just double check to make sure the numbers are in order, which it is. So it's 18 minus 14.2, and that's going to give me an answer of 3.8. Then it says work out the mean. So to work out the mean, I've got to add all those numbers up. So 14.2 plus 15.1 plus 16.5 plus 16.7 plus 18. And if I type that all into my calculator, just making sure that you're entering the numbers in correctly. And in which I get a total of 80.5, and then I divide by how many numbers I've got, which is 5. So 80.5 divided by 5 gives me an answer of 16.1, which looks correct as that is in between the lowest number and the biggest number. So I'm expecting an answer between 14.2 and 18, which my answer is. Moving on to 6a, it says AB is a straight line, work out the angle of x. So angles on a straight line up to 180, so I've just got to do 180, take away 145, which gives me an answer of 35 degrees. Then for 6b, it says work out the size of angle y. So angles around a point add up to 360, so I have to do 360 minus 160 minus 35, remembering that our diagram is not drawn accuracy, so I can't just use a protractor to do this, in which I get an answer of 165 degrees. Moving on to 6c, it says 3 straight lines intersect as shown. What type of triangle is made? So this angle here is opposite to 47, so that's going to be 47. Then to work out what this angle here is, I then need to do 180 minus 86 minus 47. So if I just type that all into my calculator, I get an answer of 47 degrees. And as I've got 2 angles that are the same, the triangle is going to be an isosceles triangle. Moving on to question 7, it says the table shows information about packs of juice family has. The family drinks 4 cartons of juice each day. In total, how many days will their packs last? So first things first, what I need to do is work out how many cartons they have. So it's 5 times 8, which is 40, and 16 times 3, which gives me an answer of 48, giving me a grand total of 88 cartons. Now if they're drinking 4 cartons per day, I then do 88 divided by 4, which gives me an answer of 22. So the answer then is 22 days. Moving on to question 8, it says 100 people vote in an election for Joe, Kim or Liam. The pictogram shows the results for Joe and Kim. Complete the pictogram. So what we need to do is work out the total for Joe and Kim, which each circle represents 8. So here I've got 8 times 6, which is 48. I've got 32 plus 4, which is 36. So then working out Liam's total, I do 100 minus 48 minus 36, which gives me a total of 16. So that's going to be 2 full circles. Moving on to question 9, it says Callum is making pizza. He chose 3 different toppings from ham, sweet corn, onion, and mushrooms. List all the possible options of the 3 toppings. The first one has been done for you, in which we've only got 3 options to write. So it's going to be HSM. We've also got HOM, and we've also got SOM. So there are our 3 other options. Moving on to question 10a, it says write 3/8 as a percentage. So if I type 3/8 into my calculator, multiply that by 100, I get an answer of 37.5%. It then says for 10b, write down 15 over 32 as a decimal, giving your answer to 2 decimal places. So for this, all I've got to do on my calculator is do 15 divided by 32. Let me just write that a little bit better. So 15 divided by 32, in which I get an answer of 0.46875. The question wants me to write it to 2 decimal places, so that's going to be 0.47. Then for question 11, it says tick one of each statement. If a number is greater than 0, the number will always be positive, so that's going to be true. If a number is less or equal to 3, then the number is 1. That may be true, because you could have, let's say, 2, you could have 3, and that's not 1. If a number is greater or equal to 5, the smallest possible value of the number is 5, and that is true. Moving on to question 12.8, says work out the value of x squared plus 7x when x equals minus 4. So on the calculator, whenever you're dealing with negative numbers, I always recommend put the negative number in brackets. And so what I'm typing into my calculator is just this. So minus 4 squared plus 7 lots of minus 4 gives me an answer of minus 12, which works out true because I've got 16 minus plus minus 28, so that's 16 minus 28, which gives me the answer of minus 12. Moving on to question 12b, it says rearrange y equals w minus 1 to make w the subject. So I need to get rid of the minus 1 by adding 1. So w is going to equal y plus 1. Then it says for 12c, simplify fully 4 lots of a plus 2 plus a. Well, if I expand this out, I get 4a plus 8 plus a, and then collect the a's together, in which I've got 5a plus 8. Moving on to question 13, it says the time Shaz takes to run a race is 1 minute 28 seconds, less than 2 hours. Work out her time in hours, minutes and seconds. So for this, what we need to do is, now you can do this on your calculator using the time function, in which what we do is we can type in 2, and then if you press your time function, which looks a bit like this, and we've got 0, then press that button again, and then 0, which represents 2 hours, and then we do minus, and then we do 0 hours, and then we've got 1 minute, and then we've got 28 seconds, and it should give us our answer. Now alternatively, you could not use this feature, but it's entirely up to you depending on whether you've been shown this, but as it's a feature on your calculator, there is no harm in using it, in which we get an answer of 1 hour 58 minutes and 32 seconds. For question 14, it says some people were asked to choose their favourite fruit. The pie chart shows information about the results. 120 people chose banana. How many people chose apple? So for this, what we know is that 120 people equals 90 degrees. So to work out how many one person is, so one person is going to be 90 divided by 100, in which we actually want to work out what 1 degree is, so actually we need to do the opposite way. So 1 degree is going to equal 120 divided by 90 people, and if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 1 1/3, so 4 over 3 people equals 1 degree. Now in terms of apple, we want to work out what degrees this is, so I just do 360 minus 48 minus 90 minus 78 to give me the angle for apple. In which I get 144. So then 144 degrees is going to be 144 times 4 over 3, which gives me an answer of 192 people. Moving on to question 15, it says the graph represents the volume of water in a bath. The bath is full after 10 minutes, and it says work out the rate in which the bath is filled. State your units for your answer. So let's just zoom out in terms of this particular question. So what this question is asking me to do is to find the gradient of this particular point. So if I pick two nice coordinates, now typically what's usually useful is you pick the starting value and the end value. And what we need to do is work out the gradient of this diagonal line. And how you do that is you turn it into a right angle triangle like I've done here. And it's the height of the triangle using the scale, so that's 240, divided by the base of the triangle using the scale. So it's going to be 240 divided by 10, which equals 24, and it's going to be litres per minute. So in which you could also write your answer as 24 litres per, or L per min. You can write it like this, or you can write 24 litres per min to the power of -1. So any of those answers, but I would typically go for the first one, but any of those three would be absolutely fine. Then for part B, it says after the bath is full, the volume of the water stays constant for 20 minutes. Then all the water empties at a constant rate of 12 minutes. Show this information on the graph. So looking at this, if we return back to our graph, we need to stay in the bath for 20 minutes. So it's looking like 4 squares across. So if I draw a straight line, remembering to use a ruler for this, in which I get this point here, and then it then empties in 12 minutes. So from 30 minutes it's going to be totally empty by the time it gets to 42 minutes, which is there. So all I then need to do is to draw a straight line from that 30-minute mark all the way down to 42. So if I find my straight line from here to there, and there we go, that's our completed diagram. Then now moving on to question 16, it says in the grid below shade 1/4 of the square so that the grid has exactly 2 lines of symmetry. Now for question 16, you can have any of the diagrams that is shaded and seen on the screen at this moment for the full marks. Moving on to question 17, it says a map has a scale of 1 to 4,000. On the map, the distance from a station to a museum is 7 centimetres. Is the actual distance from the train station or a station to the museum more than 300 metres? Tick a box. So for this, if we've got a scale of 1 to 4,000, now what this means is that 1 centimetre equals 4,000 centimetres. So if we've got 7 centimetres, then I've multiplied that number by 7, so I need to multiply this number by 7, so that's going to be 28,000 centimetres. Now what I need to do is convert this into metres, so if I divide that by 100, then I get an answer of 280 metres. So the answer then, is it more than 300? The answer is no, as 280 is smaller than 300. So moving on to question 18, it says x is inversely proportional to y, circle the correct statement. So for this one, the correct one is going to be our top or right hand option. Question 19, it says here is a right angled triangle, and it says use Pythagoras' theorem to show x equals 0.8. So for this, what we need to do is label our triangle. And so we're trying to find one of the shorter sides, so I'm going to call that one A. Our longest side is C. So what we then have is A is going to equal C squared minus B squared. So x squared equals 1.7 squared minus 1.5 squared and x is therefore going to equal the square root of 0.64. So x equals 0.4, which is what they wanted me to show. Moving on to question 20, it says Beth and Lynn each spin some bias coin a number of times. The table shows information about the results, and for part 8 it says how many more heads did Beth spin than Lynn. So to work out how many heads Beth got, it's going to be 125 multiplied by 0.32. So it's the number of trials multiplied by the relative frequency, which gives me an answer of 40. And for Lynn, it's going to be 80 multiplied by 0.35, which gives me an answer of 28. Now the question is asking for how many more heads, so we want the difference. So that's going to be 40 minus 28, which gives me an answer of 12. It then says Lynn says that my estimate of probability of the coin landing on heads must be the best because 0.35 is greater than 0.32. Is she correct? Well, the answer for this that we want to tick is no. And the reason for this is because the more trials that you have, the more accurate the relative frequency or the probability. So something along the lines of that would be fine for the single mark. Then moving on to question 21, it says some oil has a mass of 537 grams and a density of 895,000 grams per cubic meter. 1 cubic meter equals 1,000 litres. Work out the volume of the oil, give your answer in litres. So looking at the formula for density, that density is equal to mass over volume. Now when working with this, you need to make sure that your mass units are the same and your volume, the volume is the units are the same. So I'm not going to convert anything just yet. So what I'm going to do is the density. So rearranging this formula, I get volume is equal to mass over density. So from this I get a V value of 537 divided by 895,000. So V is going to equal 0.0006. Now your calculator may give it to you in standard form, in which that's just going to be 6 times 10 to the minus 4. Now that is in cubic meters, and what we're wanting is litres. So we need to multiply that number by 10,000, by 1,000 rather, in which I get a volume of 0.6 litres. And there is my final answer. Moving on to question 22, it says use trigonometry to work out the value of x. So for this, if I label what I know, in which I got my hypotenuse of 21, theta as being 40, and x therefore being opposite. So for this, the trig ratio I need to use is going to be sine. So then substituting the values in, I've got sine 40 equals x over 21. So x is going to equal 21 multiplied by sine 40, and if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 13.5 centimeters, and that's to 1 decimal place. Now if you're concerned that this question doesn't involve anything about regarding rounding, so you can either copy your answer off the calculator or you can use any form of rounding. It's entirely up to you for this particular question. Moving on to question 23, it says the length of a wall is 9 meters to the nearest meter, complete the error interval. Well, if it's to the nearest meter, then if I halve that, that's going to give me 0.5 meters. So the error interval is going to be 9 plus or minus 0.5. So 9 minus 0.5 is 8.5, and 9 plus 0.5 is 9.5. Moving on to question 24, it says 384 electric cars was 1,000 electric cars were sold this year. This is 20% more than last year. Work out the how much was sold last year. So for this, what we need to do is reverse percentages question. So if I wanted to increase something by 20%, then I'm going to be multiplying it by 1.2. But if I'm wanting the previous answer, I need to divide by 1.2. So if I do 384,000 divided by 1.2 on my calculator, it gives me an answer of 320,000. Then for question 25, it says here are 3 terms. Alec multiplies 2 of these terms. Work out the 3 possible simplified answers. So if I do xy times x squared, then that's going to give me x cubed y. If I then do xy times 5y squared, then that's going to give me 5xy cubed. Then if I then do x squared times 5y squared, then I end up with 5x squared y squared, and there are my 3 possible answers. Then moving on to question 26, says here is a rectangle, all measurements are in centimetres, A to B to C is in the ratio of 1 to 3, work out the value of the area. So for this particular question, what I need to do is I need to find x first. Now to find x, 2 opposite lengths on a rectangle are equal, so that's 4x plus 1 is going to be equal to 2x plus 17. So then solving this double-sided equation, I get 2x plus 1 equals 17. Take away the 1, I get 2x equals 16, so x equals 8. And once I know that x equals 8, I can then work out the length of AB. So AB is going to be 4 times 8 plus 1. So that's going to be 33 centimetres. So therefore, BC is 3 times that length. So it's going to be 3 times 33, which is 99 centimetres. So then the area of the rectangle is going to be 33 times 99. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 3267 centimetres square. And that concludes the end of this paper.